Hello everyone. During the previous class of compaction, we have discussed about the definition and significance of compaction. In today's class, we will discuss further about the tests which are carried out for finding out the density of the soil. So let us go through some recap of previous classes. During previous class, we have discussed about compaction and how it can be achieved in the laboratory using standard Proctor test. In today's class, we will discuss about the modified Proctor test. So what is modified Proctor test? Modified Proctor test was developed to give a higher standard of compaction. This was mainly standardized by the American Association of State Highway Officials and is also known as the modified AASHTO test. In this test, the soil is compacted in the standard Proctor mold but in 5 layers. In standard Proctor test, we have maintained 3 layers, but here the number of layers is 5. Each layer is being given 25 number of blows using 4.5 kg rammer as per American Association of State Highway Officials, but in case of Indian standard, it is recommended to use a hammer of 4.9 kg, which is dropped through a height of 45 centimeter. The compactive energy in this test is 2674 kilojoule per meter cube. For the same soil, the effect of modified compaction or heavier compaction is to increase in the maximum dry density and decrease the optimum water content. So what is the basic difference in standard Proctor test and modified Proctor test? Modified Proctor test is mainly used where higher compaction is needed. Suppose for an example where heavier transportation system will be established or military aircraft facility will be established. In those cases, modified Proctor test is being carried out than the standard Proctor test. If we can see the graph, in the graph, this is a graph between water content and dry density. Here we can see that in the same curve for the same soil, if we use standard Proctor test, the value of optimum moisture content is much more and the density is much less than the modified compaction. For modified Proctor test, we are getting higher amount of density with lower moisture content or lower optimum moisture content. So this is the main utility of modified Proctor test. So let us now shift to the field compaction method. The standard Proctor test and the modified Proctor test are considered as compaction carried out in the laboratory. So for the field compaction method, what are the methods that can be used? There are 3 methods of field compaction. These are rolling, ramming, that is by impact, and vibration. So corresponding to this, the various compacting equipment can be grouped into 3 categories, that is roller category, rammer category and vibrator category. These rolling equipment are of 5 types: smooth field rollers, pneumatic tired rollers, sheep foot rollers, lorries and pneumatic tired construction plants, track line vehicles. These are the 5 types of rolling equipment. What are the ramming equipment? Ramming equipment consists of 3 types: dropping weight type, internal combustion type and pneumatic type. What are the vibrating equipment? The vibrating equipment can be divided into 2 types: dropping weight type, pulsating hydraulic type. So what are the utility or what are the uses of these equipments in the field? The performance of any kind of compacting equipment depend upon the type of soil, its particle size distribution and its water content. In general, smooth field rollers are mostly suited to crushed rock, hardcore mechanically stable gravels and sand. They can also be used satisfactorily on cohesive soil. In cohesionless sands and gravel, vibrating type equipment, crawler tractor and rubber tire roller are mainly effective. Sheep foot rollers are mainly recommended for compacting cohesive soils, but are not considered effective on coarse grain cohesionless soil. The kneading action of the sheep foot rollers results in the better bond between the compacted layers compared to the other type of rollers. The action of pneumatic tire roller is a combination of pressure and kneading. Hence, they are suitable both for the cohesionless sand and gravel as well as on the cohesive soil. Lastly, rammers are used for compacting soil in confined places. Vibratory rollers are useful in case of cohesionless sand. So these are the utility of the equipments which are used for compaction. Next we will shift to field compaction control. So how the compaction can be controlled in the field? What are the parameters that has to be taken into account? For field compaction control, it consists of determination of water content at which the soil has been compacted and the dry density along with the degree of compaction achieved. So, normally for achieving proper compaction control, rapid testing method are normally adopted. So, for rapid testing method, if we consider for determination of water content, for rapid determination of the water content, we can use two methods. The one is calcium carbide method and the second is proton needle method. The calcium carbide method has already been discussed in Soil Mechanics 1 in the previous semester. So we are not going into that. We are going into the second method which is known as the proton needle method. This second method is commonly used in the field. This proton needle, as we can see in the figure, it can be easily seen in the figure. The proton needle consists of a needle point attached to a graduated needle shank, which in turn is again attached to a spring-loaded plunger. The needle point of varying cross-sectional area are available so that a wide range of penetration resistance can be measured. The penetration force is read on the loaded gauge fixed over the handle. To use the needle in the field, a calibration curve is plotted in the laboratory between the penetration resistance as the ordinate and the water content as the abscissa. The laboratory penetration resistance is measured by inserting the proton needle in the compacted soil in the proton mold. The penetration resistance corresponding to various water content are noted at the end of each proton compaction and the calibration curve is plotted. This curve is mainly used to determine the placement water content. The penetration resistance of the compacted soil in the field is mainly determined with the proton needle and the water content can be read from the calibration curve. Next we are going to the density of the soil. So how the density can be find out or achieved in the laboratory? As this chapter progresses, you have already learned in Soil Mechanics 1 that the field density can be achieved by using these four methods, which are sand replacement method, core cutter method, water displacement method and rubber balloon method. So we are not discussing these methods right now because it has already been discussed in Soil Mechanics 1. So these are the methods by which the density can be achieved in the field. So far the degree of compaction is considered. So the degree of compaction normally can be obtained in the field by relative density or by relative compaction or percentage compaction, which can be defined as a ratio which is expressed mainly as a percentage of the field dry density to the maximum density obtained in the laboratory compaction test. So by this we can obtain the degree of compaction. So these are the three methods which control the compaction in the field. So let us now move to the factors which affect compaction. So there are various factors normally which affect the compacted density. The main factors are water content, amount and type of compaction, method of compaction, type of soil, and addition of admixtures. So first of all, let us start with the water content. So it can be easily seen by the laboratory experiment that as the water content is increased, the compacted density goes on increasing till a maximum dry density is achieved, after which further addition of water decreases the density. So if we go to this curve, so here we can see that as the water content increases, we are getting a certain value of density, and this density value goes on increasing till a particular value of density is achieved, which is the maximum dry density. This maximum dry density is achieved in a single water content, in a particular water content, which is known as optimum moisture content. After achieving this optimum moisture content, if we increase the amount of water, the density will go on decreasing. Hence this curve is achieved. So what is the next factor? The next factor is amount of compaction. How much energy or how much compaction effort is being given to the soil. The amount of compaction greatly affects the maximum dry density and the optimum moisture content, as it can be seen again from the previous curve. If we see the standard and modified, if we see the difference between standard and modified, for the standard Proctor test, the energy given is approximately 565 kilojoule, and for the modified Proctor test, the energy that has been given to the soil is 2674 kilojoules. So as we are increasing the energy for the same type of soil, it can be seen that higher density is achieved for higher compactive energy than the lower compactive energy. So by using higher compactive energy, we are getting more amount of density with less water content, and if we use less compacting energy, we are getting less density in a higher moisture content. So this is the effect of compaction. Next is the method of compaction. How the compaction is being carried out. As we have already studied during this class, that compaction can be carried out by vibration or by rolling or by tampering. So these are the different methods of compaction. But the method of compaction is greatly depending upon the type of soil, that which type of soil is present and which type of method we are using for compaction. So mainly the density achieved during the compaction for a particular type of soil depends upon the type of compaction or the manner in which the compactive effort is applied. So there are various aspects in this. What are the aspects? Can be weight of the compacting equipment is one factor. The manner of compacting or operation, such that whether it is vibrated or impact load is applied or static or kneading or rolling, these are the manner of compaction. And the time and area of contact between the compacting element and the soil, that means how much time we are giving for compaction of a particular type of soil. So this is the method of compaction. Next is the type of soil. So how the type of soil affects the compaction? Normally the maximum dry density achieved corresponding to a particular given compactive energy largely depends upon the type of soil. If there is a well-graded coarse-grained soil, it attains a much higher density and lower optimum moisture content than the fine-grained soil. Fine-grained soil mainly requires more amount of water for lubrication because it has greater specific surface. Hence, there is a particular difference between the type of soil, and this difference can be easily find out from the graph below. As you can see in the graph, that when the soil is gravel or the soil is sand or silt, you can easily see the density value is decreasing and the graph is also changing. Higher density can be achieved at lower water content in case of well-graded gravel. GW is stated as well-graded gravel, as you have already studied in Soil Mechanics 1, that how the nomenclature of the soil is being done. GW stands for well-graded gravel, SW for well-graded sand, ML for low plastic silt, CL for low plastic clay, and CH for high plastic clay. So for well-graded gravel, higher density can be achieved at lower moisture content. For sand, the density is quite less than gravel with a slight increase in water content. For silt, for clay, low plastic and high plastic, you can see the density is gradually decreasing and the water content is increasing. That means the type of soil also is a factor which results in different type of density and different type of water content. And lastly, the property which affects compaction is the admixture. So the compaction property or the characteristics can be easily modified by addition of number of admixtures in the soil material. These admixtures can be cement or lime depending upon the nature of the project or the nature of the work or the nature of construction that will be carried out on particular type of soil. This addition of admixtures or the whole thing regarding admixtures can be studied in the chapter of soil stabilization. There you will get to study what are the types of admixtures and what are the chemicals that are used for different varieties of soil. So let us now shift into effect of compaction on soil properties. So what does compaction do for the soil? So main aim of compacting a soil is what? We are improving some desirable property of the soil. So what are the property that is desirable for a soil? That is reduction in compressibility, water absorption and permeability, increase in soil strength, increase in bearing capacity, changes in swelling and shrinkage characteristics. So these are the main desirable property that we want for a particular type of soil. So how the soil property changes? First of all is the change in structure of the soil. So before compaction, normally a soil structure is flocculated. Normally a soil structure has a flocculated structure. So after compaction, it becomes highly oriented or dispersed. So this is the first change of a soil structure, that a flocculated structure gets converted into oriented or dispersed structure. Next is the permeability of the soil. So as the dry density increases due to compaction, the voids of the soil goes on reducing, and as the voids goes on reducing, permeability also decreases. So for the same density, fine grained soil sample which is compacted on the dry side of optimum are more permeable than the soil which is compacted on the wet side of optimum. What is the reason behind this? This is because the soil have the flocculated structure on the dry side of optimum and it has dispersed structure on the wet side of optimum. Hence, it contains more void in the dry side than the wet side. Hence, the permeability will be greater on the dry side of optimum than the wet side of optimum. And again, if we increase the compactive effort, the permeability of the soil will also decrease because the particle will be come more close to each other or will be more oriented. Hence, permeability will decrease. So, what will be the next property that will be changed? That is shrinkage. So, for the same density, the soil compacted on the dry side of optimum shrink approximately very less than the sample which is compacted on the wet side of optimum. Why this occurs? This is because the soil particles have dispersed structure and have nearly parallel orientation and can pack more efficiently. Hence, shrinkage occurs. So, next property is swelling. So, what is swelling? Swelling means the normally clay sample when it is compacted on the optimum dry side of the optimum has higher water deficiency than it is compacted on the wet side of optimum. Hence, greater swelling pressure and greater swell can be achieved on the higher water content sides than the lower water content side. So, this is the effect of swelling. Next, we are coming to pore pressure. So, what are the changes in pore pressure? Mainly, saturated sample of clay when compacted on the dry side of optimum tend to develop lower pore pressure at lower strain than the sample of the same soil of same density and water content compacted on the wet side of optimum. What are the changes in compressibility? Saturated sample of clay which is compacted on the wet side of optimum is more compressible than the another sample of the same soil having same void ratio but compacted on the dry side of optimum. Why this occurs? This is because the sample compacted on the dry side of optimum has flocculated structures and requires extra pressure to cause parallel orientation of the particle. But in the higher pressure range, a sample compacted on the dry side of optimum is more compressible than the one which is compacted on the wet side of optimum. Next, we coming to the stress strain characteristics. So for a particular type of soil which is compacted on the dry side of optimum mainly has a steeper stress strain curve and hence has a higher modulus of elasticity than the same soil which is compacted on the wet side of optimum at the same density. Normally, the soil which is compacted on the wet side of optimum has higher brittle failure, while the soil which is compacted on the wet of optimum. Next, we are coming to the shear strength of soil. So, as we already know that as we go on increasing the density of the soil, the shear strength of the soil also increases. That is, compaction increases the shear strength of the soil. So, these are the properties of the soil which are enhanced or which are being greatly affected by the compaction. So lastly, we are moving to a numerical problem which is related to compaction. So what is a numerical problem given? A laboratory compaction test on soil having specific gravity equal to 2.68 gave a maximum dry density of 1.82 gram per cc and a water content of 70%. Determine the degree of saturation, air content and percentage air void at the maximum dry density. What will be the theoretical maximum dry density? Corresponding to 0 air voids at the optimum moisture content. So we have to find out the degree of saturation, air content and percentage air void at the maximum dry density. So after that we have to find out the theoretical maximum dry density corresponding to 0 air void. So for finding out the value of the degree of saturation, air content and percentage air void, we are going for the formula that is rho d equals to g gamma w, g rho w by 1 plus wg by s. Here we have water content as 17%, that is 0.17, specific gravity as 2.68 and the value of dry density, maximum dry density as 1.82. The value of density of water can be taken as 1 gram per cc. Hence, putting or substituting all this value, we are getting the value of degree of saturation as 94%, 0.94 or 94%. So, what is the relationship between the air content and degree of saturation? As we have previously studied in soil mechanics 1, that the degree of saturation and air content, the summation of degree of saturation and air content is 100% or 1. So, as we have obtained degree of saturation 94%, we will get the air content as 6%. 1 minus 94, 0.94, that is 64, that is 6% or 0.06. Okay, next we are coming to the value of percentage air voids. So, what is the value of percentage air void? Here we have another formula as rho d equals to 1 minus Na g rho w divided by 1 plus wg, as we have studied in the previous compaction chapter. This is the formula for percentage air voids. So we know that rho d is given as 1.82 and all other parameters are provided. So here Na or percentage air void can be easily found out as 0.01 or 1%. So we have got degree of saturation, air content as well as percentage air void as required in the sum. So next we have to find out the value of the dry density, maximum dry density corresponding to 0 air void line. So for 0 air void, we will substitute the value of Na equals to 0 or S equals to 1. Then what will be the value of rho d? So rho d will be equals to g rho w divided by 1 plus wg, substituting the value of Na as 0. So G as 2.68, rho W as 1, water content as 0.17. Substituting all these value, we are getting the value of dry density as 1.84 gram per cc. So if we want to get the value of dry density in terms of weight, unit weight of the soil, then we have to multiply the value from gram per cc to kilonewton per meter cube. Hence, we have to multiply the value of gram per cc with 9.81, that is G. So, G into rho T is given by 9.81 into 1.84, that is 18.05 kilonewton per meter cube. Hence, the dry unit weight of the soil is given as 18.05 kilonewton per meter cube. So, this is the total compaction chapter. The previous one was discussed regarding the preliminary definitions and type of test, and this second chapter comprised of the numericals and the other properties which are related to compaction. Thank you for watching.